Here we have a variety of the Woodcraft we can make using tree slices and a few other bits we find around the woodland. Ultimately, you're limited by your imagination. You can either simply take single slices like this and decorate them. You can drill holes to hang them. This is just painted with acrylic paint on here, so it's waterproof, and varnished over the top, so it's waterproof and nice and shiny. You can construct other ornaments with them. You can have little bent nails to hang them as an alternative to drilling. And these are all varnished and using bark and bits of wood that we use around the woodland. You can also construct these little flying creatures, such as these dragonfly type ornaments or butterflies, which are a modification of that. We'll be looking specifically later on about how to make the slices and then how to construct this snowman and one of these dragonflies. We can also add little magnets into the backs of them to make fridge magnets. We have a choice of varnishing to get a nice smooth one. We can oil treat to give a slightly matte finish but still leave the grain nice. We can leave it fairly unsanded. It'll be suitable for painting later, or we can sand it really fine and get a nice naked bare wood effect. So you can use any wood to make these slices. I'm using a slice of cherry wood here. I think it usually gives quite a nice smooth finish and a nice grain structure. I'm just cutting it with a cross-cut saw. This one is cut at a slight angle, which you can see here, but we left a load of saw markings on the side which we'll need to remove by sanding. So we take our slices and we just trim off with scissors any little flaps of bark or any splinters that happen to be overlapping the sanding surface. We then take our sinks, find the saw marks, and we saw at right angles to the saw marks, which is the most effective way of removing it. Starting off with a coarse sandpaper, this here is 60 grit. We then find that we've removed most of the saw marks from the other side. We've got a few scratches due to the sandpaper, but the saw marks should be gone as compared to the other side. So we move on and sand with a finer sandpaper at right angles to the original direction. This here is 120 grit, which will be fine for things like painted pieces. If you're going to varnish or display bare wood, you probably need to do a bit finer than that. With the final sandpaper, I like to just take a damp finger and run it over the wood to fluff up the fibres. This, once it's dried, will fluff them all up and allows you to re-sand to get it really smooth. Just wipe it off with a damp cloth and then leave it to dry in the air. It's now slightly rougher, so we now just re-sand it on the same sandpaper with a circular motion until it's smooth. Dust off a few bits of sawdust with the original paper, have a nice smooth slice that's ready to use. So this here is the piece of wood that we've just sliced and sanded down to 120 grit. See, it shows up the grain pretty well and is nice and smooth now. What we will see though is on this other slice, which is sanded much finer to about 400 grit, which is more suitable really for varnishing or showing off the wood in itself. You'll see the grain appears that much more detailed. However, this is perfectly adequate for painting over. Okay, so to assemble the snowman, we've got a piece of apple circle with a little nail in the top that's bent over to allow it to hang. I'm going to glue this on to the body, which is this piece of plum wood here. For this, I'm going to use a hot glue gun. You can use PVA, it's just a bit quicker to use a glue gun. So I'm going to glue onto there and then just press those together. In order to give it a bit more strength, I'm just going to take a strip. This is made of a little strip of wood, a shaving of wood from a other project. Okay, so the next part's going to be the arms, and I've got these little forked sticks here, and I'm going to glue them onto the back so they stick out. Now the eyes here, I've cut from a piece of shaving, like so. I'm just going to glue these on. Middle of the eyes, I've got these pieces of circles which I've cut out of a piece of cherry bark, again, which is left over from a previous project. Just cut them out with a pair of scissors. Mouth also cut out from the same piece of cherry bark, which I'm just going to go on. To varnish, I'm going to varnish over on the front, over everything. I'm also going to varnish the back, just roughly. This is an exterior varnish. I like to go inside to out. So here we have the finished product after 2 coats of varnish and being allowed to dry. We've got a nice shiny sheen on the front that's really brought out the wood grain very well. To make the dragonfly, we take 2 angled slices of cherry wood and remove the outer bark, and then glue 2 pieces together to give the angle of the wings. Then with the little blob of glue on the inside angle, we attach a fork stick for the body of the dragonfly, and then we trim the stick as needed. In order to hang the dragonfly, we take a piece of wire with a loop twisted in it and bend the arms and drape it diagonally over the body and wings of the dragonfly. Turn the dragonfly over and take the 2 legs of the wires and twist them tightly around each other to secure the hanger in place. Trim off any excess wire and bend the twisted stub of the wire between the wings of the dragonfly to get it out of the way. Turn the dragonfly over and holding the hanging loop, do some few more twists to tighten the wire if necessary. And then glue around the wire and to reinforce the body and the wings. This one I'm finishing with varnish, exterior varnish. We're just going to go over the top, the bottom of the wings and around the sides of the wings if you have removed the outer bark. You could also paint these or paint pictures or anything you like. And here we have the finished product. It's hanging from a loop. If the dragonfly doesn't hang straight, you can bend the looped wire around until it gets it right. You'll see it's nicely sheened with varnish. This had 2 coats. Wood grain shows up very nicely on both the top and the bottom of the dragonfly. This is now ready to hang up.